I'd like to talk about contour or voice leading in your compositions. Good voice leading thinks of how you get from one note to the next, and the contour is actually the line that's drawn between the notes of your composition to show where they go. If I drew a contour line on the blues scale, it would pretty much go in one direction without any big jagged parts. The blues scale, bum, 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 bum. If you use it jumping from one note to the next, that's good voice leading, or that'll give you a pleasing contour. In general, whatever note you're on, you want to pass through the next note to the next note. Doesn't matter which direction that you're going, but it's generally not a good idea for you to jump from one note across one or two other notes to get to a different note. The one exception might be jumping from C, which is the tonic, to the other C, which is the tonic. So to show you in an example, I've got this, and you can probably see by looking at it that the contour is quite jagged. The notes go up and down and jump around quite a bit. They don't follow the order of the blues scale quite so much. So this is what it sounds like. So if I were to try and follow my rules, the first thing I would do is look at my blues scale, and I would check in and make sure first that all these notes are in the blues scale, and I haven't missed any accidentals or anything. I think I'm pretty good. And then try and use my rule of whatever note I start from, and you can start anywhere on the scale, I want to go to the next note in the scale. So that rule is okay for the beginning. Then from this note, I have two choices. I can either go back down to C, or I can go up to F. By all means, every once in a while, do a little jump. But if the whole thing is full of jumps, it won't feel very settled. So for this one, I think I'll leave that jump in there because it goes back to the tonic and it's not too bad. But then I have another leap, which from F to C, in terms of the blues scale, is a big leap because I've leapt over three other notes to get to that point. So I'm going to change that by dragging, or else I can move my arrow down. And now instead of a big jump, I actually have from F to the very next note to the very next note. F to G flat to G natural. So now it sounds like this, which is much more bluesy than this, what it used to be. So I'll go through the whole thing and see if I can fix that up. From here to here, I've got a bit of a leap, but again, I'm leaping from two really important notes, the dominant of G to the tonic. These are sort of the strong points. These are the structural points of the scale. So if you're going to leap anywhere, from C to C is your best leap, from C to G, or G to C, is your second best leap. So not only am I happy with that leap, I'm going to allow that rest in there to give me a little break before the leap. So this is mainly by step, which is stepping one note to the next. I've got a leap, but I've prepared it by putting a rest in there. This is a little bit too leapity-leap-leap, so I'm going to go back and look at my scale. From C, the next closest note is B flat, so I'm going to arrow my way up and back down to a B flat. And from B flat, I can either go to C or I can go to G. So I'm going to go through and change a few more notes. This is what it sounds like now. And let me change a few things. Voila. And now you can see that I've magically lined everything up. If I want to be really sure, I'll go back and check. It's confusing because they're on the same line, but I'll check if G and G flat and G are really next to each other, and they are. So it looks like I've done pretty well, and instead of having a big octave jump at the end, I made those two C's the same pitch, so I get this. Now the next line, I've purposely tried to follow the blues scale. So I have C, E flat, F, G flat, and then from G flat, I really, really, really want to go to G. So the other really important thing about contour to realize is that G flat is a pivot point. You cannot sit on G flat for very long without falling to F or falling to G. Anytime you approach G flat, you should come from F or you should come from G and resolve on G. So to resolve means to sort of finish it off, to land there. I've approached from F. My next choice is to go either to G or to go to F. Let's see what the G sounds like. So even though I've just made that little extra note in there instead of a C, it just flows a bit better. And this one just follows the scale down. And that contour is just beautiful because it is note for note along the scale, along the steps. So in very general terms, you want your notes to follow the blues scale as much as possible, as much as musical. And if you're going to make a leap, make that leap from C to G, or G to C, or the big octave leap from C to C. And G is your pivot point. If you're on a G, you should have approached from the F, that should be the note before it, or from the G, that should be the note before it, or else go through it. As you can see again in my example, even though I'm going to jump from G to C, I've made sure I go through that G or I go through that F before I go anywhere else.